Welcome to the Connectable podcast.
The Connectable podcast starts in 3, 2, 1.
Like a pro.
Like a pro. I know, man, you're already starting off strong. This is good. So today's guest is Happy dang it. Okay, I promised myself I wouldn't jack up your name, and I already did it. Happy Nguyen, right?
Yeah, close. I typically just tell people Happy Nguyen.
Nguyen?
Yeah.
I'm Japanese. The sounds are a little different. So
Yeah, no
anyways,
worries.
it's the owner of Good Water Fly Fishing. What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good. Hey, so we like to start off the show by letting people know how we're connected to our guests, because that's why, the name of the podcast is Connectable, and we're just trying to get connected, our guests connected to the audience connected to the guests, and then hopefully everybody a little bit more connected to each other. So Happy and I know each other because we actually interned together at Capital Christian for, I think, 1 year. And we had the opportunity to work together on some different things. We kind of helped lead the run club that we did over at Oak Ridge Elementary School in Sacramento. And then pretty much anything else that we had to do, we were kind of, working on together. Especially in that situation, it was kind of anything and everything. I mean, I think we delivered just a ton of shoes out of a truck to the folks over in downtown Sacramento, the homeless community there one time, and just, donated, I felt like hundreds of shoes to just people around the streets. And then there was, one time I do remember you and I feel like we made a lot of moving trips, right? We had a lot of people that needed help moving, or they were donating stuff. And I remember one specific incident, you and I had to go move somebody out of a storage container.
Yeah.
And we were moving this mattress, Deb, and I don't know if you remember this, Happy, but we were holding the mattress, right? And him and I were moving it down the steps, and this lady that was really nice lady.
What size mattress?
Probably like a queen. I mean, it was a decent size, right? So we're moving this mattress, and all of a sudden the lady's like, "Oh, I think that's where the afterbirth was." What? And we're looking, and unfortunately, it was right where Happy had one of his hands.
Oh yeah.
On the mattress.
Oh
And
my God.
you have to understand, Happy is just the most easygoing, coolest guy. But the look on his face was like, I can't believe she just said that, and I can't believe my hand was just there. So some wild stories for sure. But anyways, that's how we know each other. So yeah, man, like I said, I know weird stuff like that used to happen all the time. So yeah, anyways, man, we're thankful that you were willing to take some time out of your schedule to join us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I feel like you're someone that's had a lot of different interests, right? Like I feel like, when we were working together, you had some interest and you were pursuing different things. And then I feel like a little while later, you were working with our friend Curtis Smith doing, videography and stuff like that. And then before I knew it, you were doing this fly fishing thing.
Yeah.
So like, how did you get into fly fishing, and how did you get into all of this stuff that you're doing now?
Yeah. So fishing was, something that was always, pretty common to me growing up. Ever since I was a little kid, my dad got me into fishing. I grew up in Michigan, so, that's all everyone do up there is they either fish or they hunt. And it was just something that was just very normal to my brother and I growing up. And then when I moved out to California, I kind of stopped, fishing for a little bit just because I, didn't have anyone to do it with, or I didn't know how to my way around. And at the time, how I got into fly fishing was kind of funny. I was working at a marketing company at the time, and I was, doing all their videos, editing and everything like that. And one day I was just looking for, just some inspiration, just looking at, different companies' marketing and seeing how they tell stories and do video. And I came across Yeti's YouTube page, and they had these really cool fishing videos, and they were specifically fly fishing videos. And I just thought it was just the way they put it together was very enticing. The storytelling was awesome, and it just really got me intrigued and kind of started rekindle that flame for fishing. And so I, picked up my first fly rod and hit the river and caught my first trout and really fell in love with it. And at the time too, I kind of quit that job to to become a freelance videographer. And my wife, I think she was about 4 or 5 months pregnant at the time. And I told myself, I could quit this job, work half the time that I'm working for the, like work half the time that I was working and make probably 2 or 3 times more money than I was making there. But then that plan didn't really follow through because I spent most of my time fishing more than I did working. And so
Yeah.
my wife really got on me on that, and she's like, Happy, you need to go find a job. Like, I'm pregnant, we don't have anything going for us. You just quit your job, and here you are spending lots of money fishing and traveling and all, going all over the place. So I told myself, I was like, wow, like, well, you know what, I'm so passionate about this, and I love doing this so much that there has to be a way to make money doing it. And so I just looked around and kind of did my research, and saw that there were places that offered guide school for fly fishing. So I took a trip out to Montana and attended a guide school for a week, and just learned a lot and connected with some awesome people, and really just pursued that passion until it kind of just became a reality for me. And like you said, like my wife would agree too. Like you said earlier, I always had there. I'm always intrigued by so many different things, and always take interest in a lot of things. And there's just so much in life that it's hard to not be interested in all these things. But for me, it was just fly fishing. It was just something that really just caught on, and I took a risk, and it paid off.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
That's so cool that you figured out how to turn basically like the most fun hobby for you into a job. Like, that is awesome.
Yeah.
What is it specifically about fly fishing that gets you just, you love it so much, you're passionate about it? Is there does it calm you? Does it put you in a different mindset? Like, what is it about it that you like so much?
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of things about fly fishing that I really like.
Yeah.
Kind of the couple of things that I really love about fly fishing is the amazing places that it'll take you. Most places where you're going to go fly fishing is, very beautiful. You're in a secluded river, or somewhere out in tropic water. It's really cool. It'll take you to some cool places. I think the thing that's most important to me that I really love about fly fishing is just the connections that you make with people out on the water. I feel like for me, I feel like I'm a very relational person. I try to make that important in my life. And some people, fly fishing for them is different. Sometimes some people like to get away and escape whatever it is that they're, stressed that they have in their life. For me, I just like to get out on the water and meet new people and have a good time.
Yeah.
That's great. I just had this thought. Did I even introduce you guys? Javi, this is Deb. I feel like I skipped over that whole thing. I just jumped in.
I'm Deb.
Sorry, everybody.
Wow, that was
just hit me.
delayed.
I'm like, oh, wow, what a douche I am. I just kind of jumped in this. And go ahead.
That was very delayed, Josh. I'm very concerned. I think maybe we're spending too much time together, because that's something I would have done.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, this is Happy. This is Deb. Now you guys know each other. We start this conversation. Jeez.
Nice to meet you.
I'm the worst. We've done this for 2 years. I suck. No, man, I love the pictures you post on Instagram of your trips, because it's just a beautiful place. And even seeing the pictures, you can get a sense of how peaceful it is in these places that you go. So where's your spot? Like, if you have a choice, if you can go anywhere, places that you've been, where's that spot that you would go every single time? And then where is a dream location that you haven't been yet, but you're hoping to one day?
Yeah, that's a good question. So this past summer, I spent my first summer up in Alaska guiding at a lodge, and that was a pretty awesome experience for me. And I would say one of the coolest places I've been is definitely Alaska.
Okay.
It's very remote. It's one of the last places I feel like on Earth that's just been, untouched by man.
Yeah.
You're out there, you'll be fishing, and 20 feet away from you, there's a mom and a couple cubs, and they're fishing as well. And, there are times where you could almost reach out and touch these bears. I wouldn't advise it, but, it's just try to paint a picture of how remote and how things coexist up there.
Yeah.
It's a very special place. And another place I just recently went to was Belize. And I was down there a couple weeks ago for a week and a half. And I mean, that was a life-changing experience for me, just experiencing the culture of Belize, and just, fishing in salt water versus freshwater. It's just a whole different game. It's almost like hunting versus fishing, if it makes sense. You're stalking these very elusive fish out on the flats of Belize, and it's just a beautiful environment.
That's awesome. Now, do you have to do a lot of, I mean, I'll be honest, man, I've never been fishing. Not
Yeah.
once. Never.
Come out sometime.
I'll have to do it, man. Now that I know someone that's this into it,
Wow.
I've never been. Oh, well, okay, I've been one time, but like basically a buddy of mine and his dad took me out,
Yeah.
and they stuck the pole in the ground. We sat there. Like I
Yeah.
didn't know what I was doing. I don't think I touched the pole, to be honest with you. I think he's like, "This is your pole." He stuck it in the ground,
There you
and
go.
then hopefully I catch something.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. But so like how much, so when you go to a place like Belize, or if you go to a place like Alaska for the first time, like how much do you have to do research into the places, or is it like, are there certain things that are just kind of standard when you go fly fishing that's like, okay, X, Y, and Z is the same at every spot, and then other
Sure.
things you have to maybe have some more knowledge of before you go there?
Yeah, for sure. So with fly fishing, there, like you said, there are some things that are pretty standard that, if you, some foundational things that you can build on and kind of apply to everywhere you go. As far as like Alaska and Belize, they're kind of two different types of fishing. One is saltwater and the other is freshwater. Most of the freshwater I do, we're fishing for trout. And when you're fishing for trout, any trout stream is pretty similar. The only difference is that there might be different bug life in the river. So every river will have a different type of ecosystem and a different type of aquatic insects that kind of resident in that river, and so the trout will kind of pick up on that. So that would just be kind of the hardest thing to, not the hardest, but just kind of something that you'd kind of have to learn. But for the most part, from casting and learning how to properly make a presentation to a fish is pretty standard for the most part. But from a beginner's point of view, it definitely can be a lot to take in at first. So like for me, my job as a guide is to be very instructional and just to teach someone the basic foundations of just fly fishing. Like you said, sticking a pole in the ground is not very fun. Like to me, that's not fishing.
No.
When I picked up fly fishing, I mean, you're constantly doing things. You're constantly learning how to read the water. You're constantly making casts, changing out flies to see what is working, and it's very interactive. You're not just sticking the pole and just fishing by blind faith.
Right.
Everything's very calculated, and your senses are very tuned to everything that's going around you.
Got it. I wish I would have done fly fishing first, because I think that first experience just ruined me. I'm like, I don't know what we're doing here. We're just sitting. It's brutal.
Yeah. And I've taken a lot of people out that says the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I've never been fishing, but the one time I fished, we just sat there and just threw a line out, and that's it. Fly fishing, you're constantly doing something. It's constantly challenging you and exercising your mind.
Yeah. Does your wife will she fish with you?
She has come out a few times, but we seem to argue more than anything when she comes out. Because I'll try to teach her, but she don't really have the patience for it, and then I don't have the patience for it because then I just want to fish. So she has her own thing that she likes to do, so it's kind of it's kind of cool to kind of keep it that way.
Yeah,
that's good. Yeah,
you gotta have your own hobbies.
Yeah, keep the marriage together, but stay away from the fishing. That's smart. That's good.
Exactly.
That's all. So go ahead.
I was gonna say, how long have you been doing this again? When did this start?
So I
said that.
picked up my first fly rod back in 2017, 2016.
Okay.
And just, it was just kind of started off as a hobby and a passion for the first, year and a half or two. And then it got serious when my wife really got on me about it, because it was either go big or go home. And I just chose to take a risk.
Yeah.
Sweet.
What was the response like? Because I'm always interested when people start their business for the first time. Like there's always I don't know how you felt, but there's always that. It seems like for most people, there's that point where they're like, "Man, I'm excited," and then the next day when they wake up, it's like, "What did I do?" There's that kind of teeter totter of fear versus excitement. So,
Yeah.
for you, what was it like when the first time you went out and you're like, I'm going to do this thing, and you did your first trip, and then what was the response like from people, when you first started?
Yeah. I think, a lot of, as a guide, you definitely got to know how to fish and, where the fish are and, certain things with tackle and all that stuff. You got to know, you definitely got to be on your A game. I think the biggest thing for me was just, learning how to really read people and connect with them. Because I think that will make or break a trip. You can catch fish all day long, but if your guide is a total, a-hole to you all day long, or isn't very, kind or hands-on with you, I've heard from clients that I've had out where they're like, I've been out with guides who, we've caught fish, but he wasn't the friendliest guy, and I'll never book with him again because it just wasn't a fun experience on the river.
Yeah.
And so for me, like I learned that pretty early on because I felt like I was always very relational with people, and I enjoyed the presence of people, so I didn't feel like that was hard on me. But it was just something that I really learned right away. Was just like, man, like a lot of this is just customer service based. Like how you treat people is gonna really make or break their day with you. Even if you don't catch fish, sometimes people will have a blast on the water with you just because you've provided them with an awesome experience.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, that was the biggest thing that kind of just right away was something that was, I wouldn't say eye-opening to me, but just was something that I really wanted to make it a strong characteristic in my business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, it's obviously speaking from personal experience, on the projects that you and I worked on, like that was obvious. And once I saw that you were doing this fly fishing thing and doing these guided trips, it made sense that you would be good at that because I think you're a patient dude. And, I think when we were working together, it seems like everybody that you came in contact with, you got along with, and they
Yeah.
seem to enjoy your company. So, and
Thank
yeah, like I've been on, man, I went to Maui one time with my family and we did a zip lining tour.
you.
And one of the, and I'm a pretty patient person, but
Yeah.
and pretty forgiving, but one of the guys was not the best. And he was just having a bad day. It was pretty clear. But everybody felt it. And then he wasn't getting any interaction from people. And then he got more upset. It was an uncomfortable hour and a half, 2 hours for sure. So, man, I can't agree with you anymore about this idea of like, yeah, I mean, it's like you want to provide the whole thing is the experience, right? It's not
Yeah.
just you taking them out in nature and them fishing and catching fish. It's like, your interactions, the energy you bring to the table, like all of it's a huge part of it. So,
100%.
yeah, man, that's great that you understand that. Cause I think a lot of people, sometimes I feel like people think that they have the knowledge about whatever, area of expertise that they have and they can just do something. But it's like, if you don't have the people skills, it's going to be tough.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's true. What was your most challenging part with starting your business, and what has been your favorite part about your business?
I think the most challenging thing was just really trying to, you know, uh, in in the guiding world, a lot of guides are, a lot of people will either work through an outfitter or a fly shop, or they'll be basically like kind of like a freelancer,
Yeah.
doing their own thing. And I think my biggest thing was just really trying to get my name out there and really, build relationships and connections with some of the other local guides and to learn from them. Um, you know, there were times where where there are guides that kind of just came at me and was just like, hey, like, you know, they just saw me as competition and was really turned off by that. And I felt like that was, to me at first, it was pretty discouraging because I'm like, man, like, wow, like I hope, this fly fishing community, like most people aren't like this. I hope more people are more welcoming rather than really bashful and discouraging to other people. Because I've had guys where like, how long you been fly fishing, or how long have you been doing this? I've been fishing my whole life before I decided to become a professional. And, it's like good for them, like sometimes, we have to start somewhere, and this is where I had to start. And I think for me, that was the biggest thing, was just trying to, because I was so new to the game, was just trying to get my feet wet and trying to build my reputation. I think that was kind of the toughest part to deal with. But there were also great people in the community that really helped me and taught me, and just took me under their wing to help me get going. And that was probably my favorite part, is just finding people like that, and sharing that energy of just being inclusive versus being exclusive.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's huge. It's huge. I think it's weird sometimes too, in different areas of life, in different, pockets of expertise and experience. It is weird how sometimes people can get really protective of whatever the craft is that they're working on. And it's a weird thing, because you would think there's plenty of room. I mean, obviously people are competitive and it's a business, but at the same time, if you guys share that same passion, it is unfortunate that there are people out there that just kind of tuck it over here and just want to keep it all to themselves. You know what I'm saying? It's a weird thing.
Right.
But it's cool that you found some people in that community that weren't like that. And they were, like you said, they were able to mentor you and give you a good perspective of what it could be out there. I think that's
totally.
good.
And that's, and that's my philosophy too, is I want to pay that forward to, future generations or future guides who want to get, not even just guides, but people who want to get into fly fishing. Like, it can be intimidating at first, but if you're encouraging to people, and if you treat them right, they're going to want to come back and do it and enjoy it. Like that's kind of the philosophy that I try to live with, is just to be inclusive and just cheer people on. We're all on the same team.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
I want to ask this question. If I need to cut this, well, you just don't have to answer it if you don't want to, but I feel like something I always enjoyed, like if I ever have someone cut my hair for the first time and I go to the shop, I always like to ask them if they can like see someone come through the door and they're like, oh no. Cause they, you can tell by personalities, especially when you do something for a while, you're like, man, this might be a rough one. When you have clients or customers come to you who are going to do a trip, have there been times where you're like, oh, this might be a long trip? Because you can just tell by their demeanor and their personality. It's like, whew, this is gonna be it's gonna be a hard nut to crack. You know what I'm saying? Have you ever had that?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's like that within any industry. Some days require more patience than others.
Sure.
You definitely get people who you'll tell them 100 times a day to just change their cast or change their technique, and it's not like the biggest change ever. It's like one little tweak, but you'll tell them 100 times and they're like, oh, I got it. And just totally keep on doing the same bad habit that they've been doing for years.
Oh, it's brutal.
And, sometimes you're just like, sometimes you want to shut off, but I try not to, and just be patient with them. Sometimes you'll crack through, and finally see that aha moment and celebrate with them. Those are the moments I think are special, especially when you're challenged in that way.
Sure.
Kind of, for me, the best way to kind of, I guess, have more patience is to have the end goal in mind and try to picture it, so that when it does happen, all that hard work was, all that hard work that you put up with was totally worth it, because you saw that aha moment and they've caught that fish that they've been working all day for, and they've got a big grin and they want to take a picture with it and text it to all their friends and brag about it. That makes it totally worth it at the end of the day.
That's awesome. That's why you're good at what you do, man. You're way more. I don't think I could do it. I don't think I could do it. I know myself, and it's like I said, I'm pretty patient, but I think that would drive me nuts. So it's better that
it might be different if you saw the way I guide my wife, but
yeah, maybe. That's awesome. Hey, let me ask you that. Oh, I just had this thought pop in my head. So happy, you don't know this, but Deb is a huge fan of mermaids. She loves mermaids.
Yeah.
Why? I have no idea.
My daughter is a big fan of mermaids right now.
Okay, perfect. So you might be the right guy to ask about this, because you spend so much time on the water. Let me ask you this very simply: are mermaids real?
I haven't seen one, but they might be out there.
Hey, there
you go, Deb. You got an ally.
How old's your daughter?
She's 2.5. She'll be 3 in 2 months.
My girl, she knows. We know what's up.
I
Oh
would say
yeah.
you have something in
Mermaid,
common with a
yes.
2.5-year-old, Deb. How's that feel?
I sure do.
I've dressed up as a merman before, so there's no
Oh, that's
shame.
awesome.
Oh,
He's a good fly fisherman and a good dad. He's a good guy all the way around. All right, perfect. Well, I had to ask because, like I said, he spends a lot of time in the water. You never know if Happy saw something and then would give you a little bit of hope, but he left the door open a little bit. He left the door open a little bit.
Bigfoot's another story.
Oh,
hold on.
But I won't get into that. That might have to be for another day.
I feel like this is the perfect time to get into that.
I know. I want to hear it.
Okay, so how many times? Yeah, please. Do you have a story? Because it sounds like you do.
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
Do you have thoughts? Do you have thoughts about Bigfoot?
I'm just gonna say, like there's not enough evidence to say that he isn't real, and there's not enough evidence to say that he is real. So it's 50-50.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know much about the Bigfoot story. Is he supposed to be in a certain area? Like, is there like?
I think like that famous video was taking place, somewhere in Northern California.
Oh, really?
So
really?
Yeah. So that big famous black and white video that you've seen,
Yeah.
that was in Northern California.
Okay, I had no idea. All right, Bigfoot, mermaids, it's possible. They might be out there. Have you on your trips, have you ever, I don't know how to ask this, like has there been like a surprise where you're going out there fishing? Like have you had like an interaction with a bear that you weren't expecting, or did you catch something that's like, I didn't expect to catch this?
Yeah, totally. So up in Alaska, I mean, you're with bears all the time in the region that we're at, Katmai National Park. It's got the most bear population per capita in anywhere in the world. So it's not uncommon to see over anywhere from 20 to 30 bears a day. Like your interactions with bears are pretty common up there.
Okay.
And there was this one time where we were fishing for salmon, and our clients wanted to keep, or our guests wanted to keep salmon to bring home with them. So we'd catch salmon all day long, and the limit's like 5 fish per person. So we'd keep their 5 fish, and at the end of the day, we'll get together and we'll fillet the fish down by the river and throw the carcasses in the river. But there's this bear that smelt the salmon from miles away. I mean, these bears, they could smell from miles away. Like you'll see a bear 4 miles away, and you'll see them start coming at you slowly just because their sense of smell is so good. But as we were filleting this fish, usually bears, they keep their distance from you. They're not out there to attack you or anything like that, because there's so much fish and so much food for them that they're not looking at you as a threat or food or anything, unless you're out there messing with their cubs. But there was this bear. There's a river called the Kamishak, and this river is particularly a little bit harder for the bears to get into fish, just because of the number of fish that are in that river, and the way that the river is is designed. It's just hard for the bear to catch fish. So what most of these bears do is, when after all these fishermen are done filleting all their fish, they'll come and take the carcasses or whatever scraps are left over. But this one bear was very pushy, and he saw us filleting fish, and he came at us, and we thought he was going to turn away, within like 50 feet or 100 feet or so. But he just got closer and closer and closer. And, there was a time where he got within 20 feet from us. And, we thought we were done, like we thought he was coming right at us. He's going to steal a fish, or at least, push us off of it. But we stood our ground, and I had to use bear spray. Usually, I mean, you won't even have to use bear spray for the most part, but I had to use bear spray, and the wind was coming up river, so I got the whole bear spray back in my face. And it was a pretty crazy experience. It was definitely the closest bear experience I've had. I've got a video of it that I can send over to you. One of our guests,
please do,
a video of the whole encounter. But it was my closest encounter, and definitely pretty scary.
Jeez, that would be scary for sure. I'm not gonna. I might be thinking about like which guess I'm gonna shove in the bear's direction. It's like,
yeah, right. As long as you can run faster than the other guy, you're good.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, hey, this guy wasn't listening to my techniques. Take him. Yeah, that would be. Terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Sure.
Yeah.
Exciting too. If you survive, then it's an exciting story.
Yeah, for
Right?
sure.
Yeah. Aside from bear encounters and all that, what could you walk us through a like a trip, or at least one of, I guess maybe, are they all different? Are they all the same? Is there different, like, what kind of packages, I guess, or services do you offer, or what does that typically look like?
Yeah, so there's about a half dozen of rivers that I'll guide, and a lot of them, you kind of have to know what season to fish those rivers and what fish are running during each season. So a lot of that is dependent on what fish is running throughout the year. But my rates are pretty simple. I offer half day trips, which is up to 4 hours of fishing, to full day trips up to 8 hours. And it's very instructional, all hands on. I tell all my guests, like, I can put you on fish, but I'm not God. I can't make them bite. So I can do my best to put you in a really good position to catch fish, and um, just teach them something that they haven't learned before. So I provide all of the gear, rods, tackle, flies. The only thing that people really need to bring, if is a California fishing license is required to fish if you're over, I believe, 16 years old, and a steelhead report card if we're fishing for a steelhead. But it's pretty straightforward. I try to do my best to just outfit the whole trip and just show people a good time. I'll do a shore lunch with people when it's a full day trip. So we'll take a break midday, and, I'll bring out the little grill barbecue, and we'll either do burgers or
Nice.
tacos on the river.
Nice.
That's awesome.
I have a drift boat, so I'll take people down on the river. We'll fish from the boat, or if the river calls for a walk and wading trip, where you can't really get a boat in, we'll just hike around and fish from spot to spot.
That is awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
So how does it work as far as location? Do you have multiple locations that they can choose from, or do you basically say, hey, I'm taking a trip to this location, and then if they want to go, they can go on that specific trip?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. So I'll typically give them a recommendation of what's fishing well, when people reach out to me. So, if someone reached out to me now and they're like, hey, we want to book a trip with you, what would you recommend? So, according to whatever river is fishing well, I'll point in that direction. But there are times where someone is like, hey, I just bought my first boat and I want to learn this river. Um, you know, can we go out and can you just teach me this river? Like, that river may not necessarily be fishing well, but I'll take them out on that river and show them where all the runs are and all the good fishing spots, and all the hazards and stuff like that, so that they're not making a mistake out there when they're on their own.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Mhm.
Have you seen a huge like uptick in business since this whole pandemic has happened? Because I imagine it's like it's something that people would want to escape to, right? It's an outdoor activity. They don't have to worry about some of the different things that they might have to if they were closer to a city. Like, has it been pretty busy?
Yeah, 100%. A lot of people, I think the fly fishing industry in general has been booming since the whole pandemic, just because people, like you said, they just want to be out. People
Yeah.
are working from home, so they're making their own schedules. They have more time to go out and fish. So you definitely have been seeing a little bit more pressure on the rivers, from just from this pandemic, which is great. I mean, people need to get out, and I think it's awesome because a lot of times I'll take people even on the American River here in Sacramento. We'll do a float trip down the river, and they're just shocked that there's a river this pretty in the middle of an urban area. Like, some of these people have lived here for 15 plus years, and it's their first time ever on the river. And it's just cool to just be able to offer, people that escape, or just, to just connect with nature,
Yeah.
can
That's
be
awesome.
very healthy.
Yeah, for sure. Uh, Let me ask you this too. I hate snakes. How often do you see snakes out there?
Um,
Be honest,
I,
Happy.
I don't really see too many. I've only had a couple of encounters. I had one encounter where I almost stepped on a rattlesnake. Like, if he didn't rattle, I would have stepped on him for sure. And I was wet wading, so I didn't have waders on. I was just in shorts and some wet boots.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hate snakes too. So that's, I'm always protecting myself and wearing waders when I'm out there. But yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I had to ask. I hate snakes. Deb likes snakes. I don't know.
I have no problem with snakes. I mean, the poisonous snakes, I mean, obviously I don't want to go near them. There was a time where I actually almost touched a rattlesnake as well. I was picking up a package on my front doorstep and I picked it up and I was looking at it and I heard a
Yeah.
and I looked down and a baby rattlesnake was wrapped around it on the ground. So when I picked it up, it was just right there.
Oh, gee.
Oh, I like threw that package and like ran off
Yeah.
my porch. Like it was the most terrifying thing, but I don't mind snakes. I don't mind holding snakes. At one of my this might make you too cringe, or anyone else listening. I went to a Super Bowl thing a few years ago, right, pre-pandemic, and one of a couple there, their kid, where the house we were at, his kid had a I don't know, what is that big snake called? I don't know. It's a giant snake, a cobra.
Python?
Python, I don't know, something. I don't remember the name, but like, and I was like, ooh, let me see. And they're like, you want to look? And I'm like, yeah, let me see. And so the little kid let me like hold it. So it was like wrapped around me like throughout the whole game. And I'm just like walking around with it. I'm like petting it.
Through the whole game?
I can't do
Yeah,
that.
like it just like sat like around my arm, around my tummy, on my shoulder. It like, was like moving. And so you just have to relax. And like, anyway, so
You can say it however you want right now. It's not going to change my mind. That sounds awful.
I think snakes are so cool.
You couldn't just watch the football game. You had to hold the snake.
Yeah, I did not want to watch the
I'm
football
okay.
game.
I'm okay with that.
See, Happy, and Happy's in nature all the time. And he's even like, no, I'm good.
I
should
got
tell
you guys.
something.
I got you guys. You see a snake.
Happy, that's the real reason why we do this over Zoom now, is because I'm afraid she's just gonna bring a snake out into the studio, and I'm not with it. So
Yeah, good.
Hey, did you? Please forgive me. I know you said the two places that you really enjoyed fishing, but did you say where your dream spot would be?
No, I haven't, but it's hard to say because there's so many destination places, that you could go fly fishing for, just a lot of exotic species. It's tough to say. I'd probably say my favorite place would be the Seychelles.
Where's that at?
So that is, I think it's in somewhere in like East Africa.
Oh, nice.
So it's in the Indian Ocean.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I bet there'll be snakes in the water there. Like swimming in the water. It was a boa. That's what it was. A boa that I held.
Oh yeah, a boa. Isn't that the one that can just squeeze the life out of you?
Oh yeah.
But if you relax, you have to relax. If they feel you tense up, then they tense up. You just have to relax.
So I heard the story of this. I don't know if it's like an urban myth or, some story, but I've heard this story go around where this lady, she has a python or a boa, and or maybe it was like an anaconda that she thought it was a boa or something like that. But she would occasionally sleep with her snake. Like she would have it in bed with her, go to sleep with her, and she was doing this for like a long time, so she got very comfortable with the snake. And there was a time where the snake, for 2 weeks, the snake wasn't eating. So like she was getting worried. Like she took the snake to the vet and was just telling him, hey, my snake hasn't been eating for a couple weeks, I don't know what's wrong. And the vet tells her that the snake has been starving itself for 2 weeks so that it could size her up and eat her in her sleep.
Shut up.
Oh
yeah.
No way.
I don't know if it's like an urban myth or something like that, but
Oh my God.
Someone told me that story before and I was like, wow. I mean, it makes sense, why the snake wasn't eating for a couple weeks.
Sure.
Wow.
That's wild. That's
wild.
See, but I believe you. Like, I hate snakes that much. Like, I'm not even willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. It's like, no, a snake would never do that. No, I'm like, oh, a snake for sure would do that. It's got those beady little eyes. I want no part of it. That's wild. And they could too, right? Like you hear those stories all the time about places where, a person has a boa constrictor or whatever kind of snake it is.
Oh yeah.
And it gets into the neighbor's backyard. And then you just see the snake in the neighbor's backyard. And then you see like their dog in the center of the boa.
Yeah, I've seen pictures like that before.
Yeah, and you just which is weird too because it can eat like anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
I
yeah,
know.
thanks Deb for.
Well, I wouldn't sleep with a snake in the bed, that's for sure. And I figured that kid, it's like a little 10-year-old kid's snake. So I'm like, well, if he can handle it, then I can. So
Whatever makes you feel better. Whatever makes you feel better. We'll get back to the fishing though. So, uh, so they have. I think you mentioned this earlier. They have competitions, right? Like fly fishing competitions.
Yeah. Yep.
Like I've heard that before, but I guess I don't understand. Like, is it based off of? Well, first of all, have you competed in one? And then, like,
No.
oh, you haven't done it? Have you
No.
thought about it?
I've thought about it here and there, but not really. I kind of just enjoy it just for recreational purposes.
Okay, but do you know like how does it work though? Is it based on the size of the fish, or how many fish you catch, or
Yeah.
I've never understood.
Yeah. Typically, the tournaments that I've seen around is, usually they're like some will be a day or some will be a couple days, and it's usually though I think they'll rank it by a couple things. Like one is biggest fish caught in the tournament will get a prize, and then the second is just overall weight. So usually it's like a team like two-person to a boat or something like that, and it's whichever boat combined has the highest weight number will win too. So I think it's just combined weight and then also biggest fish.
Okay.
It's typically how they do it.
Got it. That leads me into my. I don't know if you were thinking this, Deb, but I need to know. First, I need to know, Happy, what is the biggest fish? This is like your time to tell your fish story. Like, what's the biggest fish you've caught? And then what's a fish story you heard from someone where you're like, I don't know if the fish you're saying you caught was really that big.
Yeah. I'd say the biggest fish I caught was about a 29-inch rainbow trout.
Oh, okay.
Rainbow trout, like in Alaska, if you catch anything over 30 inches, that's like a trophy trout.
Okay.
I caught that trout here in California, which is surprisingly really big for California. If you were to match that up with an Alaskan rainbow, it's pretty good too.
Yeah.
So about 29 inches, that's what, over a couple feet.
Yeah.
Pretty nice rainbow trout.
It's huge.
As far as like fish stories go, I mean, you hear fish stories all the time,
Yeah.
like, it's fishermen are some of the people that like to exaggerate their stories the most. It's
Sure.
we always say, you can tell people however big your fish is. If so, like if you lose a fish, you can tell people how that fish could be as big as you make it to be because you lost it. People usually
Right.
say, oh man, I just lost, like a 10-pound trout, but who's gonna question them? You never got the fish in or whatever, but
Right.
no one's gonna believe that. That's a little much.
Yeah, that's what I've heard, I don't know too many people that fish that much, but you always hear those stories. But it's like, hey, have you ever seen Jaws? It was a little bigger than that. It's like, what are you talking
Yeah,
about?
it's always the fish that you lose,
Yeah.
which is the biggest one.
Yeah. That's interesting. Deb, do you fish?
No, I mean, but I have a long time ago. So my dad fishes.
Uh-huh.
My dad would
He's a big outdoor guy, right?
Yeah, my dad fishes and hunts. I got my
Nice.
hunting license when I was like 12. It's expired since then. Sure I did my fishing license too at some point. Oh yeah, I would fish with him all the time when I was little. Like there's pictures of me in like a pink dress with a fishing pole, like stuff like that. Yeah, it's been a while though. It's been quite a while since I've done that, but
Okay.
yeah.
Got it.
So
Yeah.
I'm trying to even remember what it was like. And yeah, that's how long
It's been that long ago.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's been that long ago. We have one more question for you, Happy. Actually, two. I lied. Two more questions, and then we want to be respectful of your time. But so I imagine that when you go out fly fishing, and you do your guided tours, you probably get it's probably a big age range, right? Like you probably have everybody from like young kids that are doing it to like older clients. So is there like a big difference in I guess training or trying to teach fly fishing to the different ages, or is it is it something that like anybody at any age can really pick up?
I like to tend to be on the side where, it's anyone can pick it up. Just because, I want to give people that positive, reinforcement, so that, they're not discouraged when they come out on the water, or they don't have any false pretense in their mind of what it's going to be.
Sure.
So that you could, especially with beginners, so that, I always tell beginners, when they tell me, oh, it's my first time fishing. And I'm like, great, that's awesome. That means you don't have any bad habits that we have to break. So,
Right.
everything that you're going to learn is going to be very foundational and proper.
Sure.
Versus someone who, you'll get guys who, fish a long time, and, you'll get good anglers and bad anglers in between. Bad anglers, you just kind of have to work with them and just help them get better and break some bad habits that they may have learned by just doing it themselves for so long. But then you'll also get guys who have, who are always booking guided trips. So they fish with guides all the time. So they've picked up things properly. They know how to fish. And usually those guys, get into more fish than, say, the beginner, just because they have more experience,
Sure.
which makes it, an easier day to guide, because you just really show them where the fish are and, kind of let them loose, versus someone new. And you kind of have to be a little bit more hands-on, which is fun because it makes the day exciting. It gives me something to do out there and, instruct them. And, that's what I really like to do, is just to really teach people and help them.
That's awesome.
That's crazy. It's so happy. It's crazy. I just realized this. My dad is actually on a fishing trip right now in Arizona.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
I don't know why I
timing.
just remembered that.
That's pretty cool.
I don't know what he's fishing for, but yeah.
Have you been there to Arizona and fished?
No, I haven't.
Okay. I don't even know. I guess I would never. I mean, I don't know. Again, I don't know anything about fishing, but I wouldn't even associate Arizona with fishing. But
I don't know.
Right, because it's like a desert.
that's what I always think of. Yeah. So maybe he's fishing for
idea.
snakes.
He's gonna bring one.
He's gonna bring one home for you.
He knows me. He knows
Yeah.
he likes snake reptiles. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
I was the weird little girl in my backyard that would collect snails and frogs and salamanders and all that stuff, and wanted mice and turtles as pets. Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, that's I feel like I've told this story before. I don't know if I did on this podcast or the Character Combine podcast, but my sister, when we were younger, my sister would be in our backyard, and she had this thing with worms. So she would dig up worms in the backyard. She's gonna hate that I'm telling the story, but it's good. It's good podcast content. So she would get these worms, and she would get 5 or 6 or 7 worms, and then she would put them in a little short pan in the backyard with water, and she would bathe them. And she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get the dirt off them and bathe them." But then what she would do is she would put a bow on them, and she would take a blade of grass, and then she would wrap it around the worm, and then she'd pull it. Well, obviously the worm can't withstand that.
Right.
And so you go to the backyard, and my mom and dad would just see this massacre of worms in the backyard, all cut in half because she was tying these bows on them. It was the grossest thing. Ask her next time you see her, Dad. It's a good. It's
funny.
fun. And she would just do this all the time. It's just such a sweet thing, and then it turned into a horror movie for these poor things.
Was she horrified? Did she understand, or did she just oh, that doesn't fit, and she goes to the next worm, or was she upset?
Here's the thing. She's pretty smart. And so you would think that, she would get upset, but she just kept doing it. So I'm kind of thinking she was a psychopath. Yeah. Talk to her about that next time. Yeah.
That's funny.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, she used to do that all the time. And I still give her a hard time about that. It's this was pretty disgusting, and she was trying to do a nice thing, but like I said, it just turned into a bloodbath in the backyard.
Yeah. At that point, you might as well put it on a hook and use it for fishing.
Yeah.
There you go. You took that story full circle. Well done. Hey, so before we let you go, Happy, we like to wrap this podcast up by giving you an opportunity to share with us. We like to call it a connection suggestion. So it could either be a brand, an organization, a person that you feel like our audience should be connected with. It could, you can get, if you have a couple, you'd throw a couple out there, but anybody or anything that you think that we should be connected with and where we can follow them.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend anyone who's wanting to get into fly fishing. There's a local fly shop here in Sacramento called Keeney's Fly Shop.
Yeah.
They're right next to Capital Christian Center, if anyone
Yeah.
knows where that's at. But they're very welcoming, and they're very inclusive to anyone who's looking to get into fly fishing. So it doesn't matter your background or your age. They're just super welcoming, and good place to get started. They offer full guide service there, so I guide through the shop there too.
Oh, cool.
As well, they have like 4 or 5 other guides that work through the shop as well, so they offer a pretty good service. And most of the guides there will get people dialed and up to speed if you're looking to get into fly fishing. So I definitely would recommend anyone in that direction.
Perfect. And then where can people follow you on social media, websites, all that stuff to get connected and hopefully, get out there on the water?
Yeah. So I'm mainly just on Instagram. So I'll do everything on Instagram. So I'll share stories and trips that I've done. And, my Instagram handle is goodwaterflyfishing.com. That's my website, but just goodwaterflyfishing.
Yeah.
Pretty easy to remember, yeah.
Okay. Perfect. We'll make sure we'll tag Happy and all that stuff too, so you guys will have a chance. And definitely, and I'm not just saying that this because he's here, but definitely check out his Instagram page, because he does post some just really beautiful shots of the places he's been. Happy Nguyen. I tried again. I was trying to redeem myself. I jacked it up again. I should have left it.
No worries. They're good.
I should have left it.
I know.
Yeah. Dang, I should have let you do this one, Deb. You should have introduced Happy.
I know.
Yeah.
I knew how to pronounce his last name.
I know, because this whole week leading up to this podcast, she was saying, it's like, okay, so we have Happy and then your last. I'm not doing it again. Happy and then your last name, and she nailed it. She nailed it every time. It's like, I should have known better. I knew I was going to jack it up.
Yeah,
I knew
nice.
Well,
Yeah.
I have a lot of students with the last name Nguyen in my
Yeah.
class.
Yeah. It's very common.
Yeah.
And I apparently only know one person that has that last name, and I can't even get it right. So, so Happy, man. Thank you so much for joining us, man. And good luck with everything. Good luck with your business. And we hope, man, it just continues to flourish and do well.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me on. Hopefully I had something good to say in there for you guys.
Oh, this was fun, man. Are you kidding me? I love hearing stories, and now I have a greater fear of snakes after the story you told. So, but I'm not going to sleep with a snake either, though. So I guess I'm okay in that sense.
Yeah. No, be wise.
Yeah. Deb might have an issue, but not me. So
No, won't sleep with snake.
that's good.
Yeah. Happy. Thank you so much. Like Josh said, we haven't interviewed someone in your line of work before on
Not even
Connectable
close.
on Connectable or our other podcast, Character Combine. So this has been really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. So yes,
Josh,
thank you
where
so
can they
much.
follow us?
Oh, I almost forgot. Good call. You guys can follow us at Connectable Podcast on Instagram, Connectable Podcast on Facebook, Connectable Pod on Twitter, Connectable Podcast on YouTube, and that's it. That's all we got. So we don't have a website, and
Not
just
yet.
check out our social media stuff. There you go. Awesome. All right, Happy. Take care, man. We'll see you later.
Thank you guys. See ya.
Thanks for watching the show. If you enjoyed that episode, make sure you like it, share it, and hit the subscribe button to get a new episode every week. We'll see you next time on the Connectable Podcast.